In the cramped confines of a small apartment, the air was thick with tension. Maya and her husband, David, were locked in a fierce argument, their words like flint and steel, sparking flames of conflict. Their children, Sarah and Liam, cowered under a makeshift fort of couch cushions, their wide eyes reflecting the heavy fear in the room. "You're never here when we need you." Maya's voice was sharp, each word a pointed accusation. "And you expect miracles when I'm stretched so thin," David retorted, his hands balled into fists of frustration. The argument reached its zenith, and with a few bitter parting words, the marriage that had once promised forever was severed. David left, and with him, the fragile stability of their world. In the wake of the separation, Maya grappled with a new and daunting reality. The loss of her parents had left her without a safety net, and now, the dissolution of her marriage meant facing homelessness. With 2 children in tow and nowhere to turn, they were adrift in a sea of uncertainty. After David's departure, Maya's world tilted on its axis. The bills piled up like autumn leaves, unrelenting and ever-increasing. She juggled multiple jobs, but the wages barely kept the lights on. The cupboards grew barer by the week, her once comfortable middle-class existence a distant memory. The apartment they had called home was lost to them, the door shut with the finality of a judge's gavel. Maya's days were a marathon without a finish line. She served tables, cleaned offices, and answered phones, each job chipping away at her time with her children, each paycheck a drop in the ocean of her debt. Her life became a patchwork of temporary solutions, a night at a friend's place, a week in a motel when she could scrape together enough cash, and too many nights in their car, seats reclined, and windows barely cracked, the city's noises a lullaby of harsh reality. The children, still reeling from their father's absence, now faced the instability of their lives head-on. School was a luxury they could no longer afford consistently, and Maya's heart broke a little more each day as she watched the light of curiosity dim in their eyes. Sarah and Liam learned too soon that life could be unforgiving, their childhood slipping through the cracks of the system that was supposed to protect them. The streets were no kinder. Maya's once vibrant eyes were clouded with the fatigue of constant vigilance. She held her children close, her body a shield against the dangers of the night. Their plight was invisible to the bustling crowds, just another piece of the urban tapestry, frayed and forgotten. The shelters offered little solace. Their beds were as elusive as a dream of stability. The lines were long, the spaces few, and the bureaucracy a labyrinth with no exit. They were given meals that sat heavy with the taste of charity and clothes that carried the scent of someone else's life. Yet, Maya's spirit, though battered, did not break. She carried a flame of resilience that not even the cold sweep of adversity could extinguish. Her love for her children was a fortress, and within its walls, she nurtured the hope that someday they would rise above the hand they'd been dealt. In this time of struggle, her vulnerability was laid bare to the world, yet she faced each day with a warrior's heart. With her few possessions bundled in old frayed bags, Maya mustered the last ounces of her will and decided to venture toward a new horizon, a different city that promised a clean slate. The children, now quiet observers of their own lives, watched with solemn eyes as their mother whispered promises of a brighter future. The journey was a blur of gray landscapes whizzing by train windows, each mile a step away from their past. But fate, it seemed, was not yet done with its cruel game. Amidst the jostling crowds and the chaos of a rushed departure, Maya's bag, which held their meager funds, slipped from her grasp, vanishing like smoke into the cacophony of the train station. Her heart sank. Those few dollars were meant to be their lifeline. Upon arrival, the city didn't greet them with warmth. Its towering buildings and endless streets seemed to mock their vulnerability. Desperation clung to Maya like a second skin as she found herself in a park, the children clinging to her side, their stomachs growling louder than the city's din. But as they say, sometimes miracle does happen. The same was the case with Maya, which brought some solace to her. As the evening draped the city in shadows, a man approached her. He was looking for directions to a place Maya had never heard of. Her admission of being new to the city and her plight spilled out of her, a torrent of misfortunes that she could no longer dam. She spoke of the train, the lost bag, and the life that had unraveled thread by thread. Her story unfolded, each word a heavy stone lifted from her chest. She told him of her husband's harsh words and harsher departures, of nights spent in fear, and of the love for her children that propelled her forward. The man, whose name was Aaron, listened with a furrowed brow. He offered them food, something she accepted with a humility that was new to her. And as they ate, Maya felt the first warm rays of kindness in what felt like an eternity. Aaron handed her a card when they finished, a simple piece of paper that felt as heavy as a golden ticket. It bore his name and an address, an offer of help in the guise of a job opportunity. He asked nothing more than for her to show up. The following day, with the children's hands in hers, Maya walked into Aaron's office, the address from the card leading them to a marketing agency. Aaron was there, as promised, and he welcomed them with a smile that held no pity, only respect. He offered Maya a position as an assistant, a job promising stability and growth potential. The work was hard, as she had no idea of working in a marketing agency before, but she kept doing work hard there. It was honest, and it filled Maya with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. Each day, she grew stronger, her resilience fortified by the support of Aaron. Sarah and Liam found solace in their new school, and the evenings, they would help Maya in her tasks, their laughter slowly returning to their eyes. The job was not just a means to an end, but a beginning. Aaron saw potential in Maya, mentored her, and encouraged her to take classes the agency offered and to dream of a future where she was no longer defined by her past. Maya's life had changed irrevocably since the day she sat desperately in the park. The road ahead was still fraught with challenges, but for the first time in a long while, she felt equipped to face them. The city that had once seemed so cold and unforgiving now offered a path to redemption and the promise of new beginnings. Despite the newfound stability Maya found in her job, not all aspects of her new life were kind. She quickly learned that some office staff held tightly to their prejudices, viewing her through a lens clouded by bias and disdain. Her role as an assistant, vital as it was within the office ecosystem, was looked down upon as if the tasks that kept the place running smoothly were unworthy, and by extension, so was she. Their reaction to Maya's appointment was suspicious, and they could not believe how a random person got so much importance and attention from their boss. They tease her every moment, making her think of leaving the job. Comments would fly, veiled as jokes or sometimes not veiled at all. "Just Maya," they'd say, reducing her entire existence to the simplistic tasks of her job description. Her hands, though diligent and efficient in their work, became the subject of their mockery, as if the roughness of her palms somehow equated to a roughness of character. She would overhear snippets of conversations, murmurs of a past they concocted in their heads about her, a narrative steeped in nothing but their unfounded convictions. They painted her as a tragic figure, not worthy of further thought, someone who ended up where she was because she could aspire to nothing more. The children would sometimes catch the tail end of these interactions, their faces etching with confusion. Maya, resilient as ever, used these moments to teach them about the strength of character, the dignity of work, and the importance of judging a person by the content of their nature rather than the job they perform. Maya bore these indignities with a quiet grace, focusing on the positive aspects of her life. She never mentioned the unkindness to Aaron, not wanting to burden him with the petty cruelties of narrow-minded individuals. She knew the value of the opportunity he had given her. She decided that the best way to confront the prejudice was to prove it wrong through her unwavering commitment to her job and the betterment of her family's future. Each evening, as she left the office, the weight of the day's slights on her shoulders, Maya would look up at the sky and remind herself of the vastness of life's possibilities. She was more than what they saw, and she was determined to rise above it. The next day, she woke up early in the morning and started preparing the kids for school, and after dropping them off at school, she went to her workplace. The office of Aaron's enterprise buzzed with the usual flurry of activity. Maya reached there with the same energy and optimism, quietly moving through the space, ensuring everything was for the day ahead. Her presence had become a comforting constant in the hectic office environment, though mainly invisible to the critical eyes of her colleagues. On this particular morning, the routine was interrupted by the arrival of an elderly woman. She seemed disoriented, clutching a worn-out address book, her eyes squinting at the unfamiliar surroundings. Without hesitation, Maya approached her, her voice a gentle lull in the cacophony of ringing phones and tapping keyboards. "May I help you, ma'am?" Maya asked, her expression warm. The woman looked up, relief washing over her features. "Oh dear, I'm looking for someone. I was told he works here, but now I'm unsure I'm in the right place." Maya guided her to a seat, fetching her a glass of water. As they conversed, the inevitable snickers and whispers spread through the office like a sour note. They mocked Maya's kindness as naivety and her compassion as a weakness to be exploited. They didn't see the point in extending such courtesies to a stranger, especially one who seemed to have nothing to offer in return. Word of the old woman's presence and Maya's interaction with her reached Aaron, who was curious about the visitor. He made his way to the lobby, his steps brisk with concern. Upon seeing the woman, a flicker of recognition crossed his face, followed by disbelief. "Aunt Clara," he exclaimed, the name escaping his lips before he could think. The woman's eyes lit up. "Aaron, is it you?" The reunion that followed was nothing short of a revelation. Aaron explained to a stunned Maya that Aunt Clara was the kind woman who had fostered him after he had been left at the doorstep of a church as an infant. She had cared for him until he was adopted. For years, he had been searching for her, wanting to thank her for the kindness she had shown him in those early, formative years. Someone had mentioned she moved to this city, but he had no leads on her whereabouts until this serendipitous encounter. Moved by the turn of events and the role Maya played, Aaron announced the entire office. He praised Maya for her empathy and kindness, the very traits that had led to this heartwarming reunion. He promoted her on the spot, assigning her a new role with responsibilities that acknowledged her talents and the goodwill she had shown. The reward he granted her was generous, a token of his appreciation, not just for this particular act of kindness, but for the consistent dedication she had shown since joining the company. He clarified that her actions embodied the values he wanted his company to stand for. The office staff, so used to underestimating Maya, were taken aback. Jealousy and shock etched their faces as they realized that the woman they had dismissed had been their superior in character all along. Aaron's happiness was contagious, and it began to shift the atmosphere in the office. Some were humbled, recognizing the error in their judgments, while others couldn't digest the changing of the status quo. The revelation of Aunt Clara's identity and connection to Aaron introduced a warm, nostalgic energy to the office that day. After the promotion and the heartfelt thanks he offered to Maya, Aaron turned his attention back to the woman who had played such a pivotal role in his early years. "Aunt Clara, you must come with me," Aaron insisted gently, a tender smile gracing his features. "I have so much to share with you, and there's a comfortable place waiting for you in my home." Aunt Clara's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, a mixture of joy and astonishment at the unexpected turn her day had taken. She had come looking for the boy she once knew, only to find a successful man extending his hand to her again, this time in gratitude and support. As they left the office together, the staff watched from windows and doorways, their earlier mockery replaced by a respectful silence. Maya, standing by the door, caught Aaron's eye. He nodded to her in thanks, acknowledging that without her, this reunion might never have happened. At Aaron's home, Aunt Clara was welcomed into a space filled with warmth and the promise of new beginnings. It was a heartfelt homecoming, one that bridged the years and the silence that had kept them apart. Over meals and long conversations, they shared stories, filling the gaps of time with laughter and occasional tears. Maya, with her new position, became a symbol of integrity and the transformative power of empathy in the workplace. Aaron, for his part, found peace in having Aunt Clara close by. Her presence in his home was a daily reminder of where he started and the journey that had led him to where he was. She enriched his life with memories of his earliest years and the love she had provided when he was most vulnerable. The once cold office environment blossomed into a community, a place where every employee, regardless of their job title, was valued and respected. And at the heart of this transformation was Maya, the quiet helper who had become the company's unexpected heroine, a beacon of hope and humanity.